So you could be walking around in your birthday suit after coming out of the shower, and it could be there folding your clothes for you, and suddenly you could have the spotty 17-year-old in California controlling your robot because it doesn't know how to fold your towel properly.
I mean, I just wouldn't trust a startup with that kind of access to my house.
Welcome to the AI argument.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and welcome to the AI argument, the spooky, scary Halloween edition. Frank, I'm guessing that this week you're probably a little bit more frightened than every other week because it's Halloween.
I'm actually quite disappointed that in general today's show isn't actually packed full of the terrifying, scary stories that we often actually cover. I think we've got quite a toned down version of the show for Halloween, which is bizarre. But I will.
If we ever start, if I don't know, the world stands still for a week or two, we end up, nothing happens. We can do a greatest hits of the scariest AI stories at some point in the future and air it at Halloween. You know the way they used to do that? Some TV shows used to do that. They get all the funny bits or the scary bits and, stick them together. Anyway, you did have a scary situation, scary for me, I guess, with Gemini. You were trying to,
Yeah,
it didn't work.
I thought I would do a fun post today, and I just thought,
Yeah.
you know what? I'll just take 10 minutes. I'll do a quick post on LinkedIn for Halloween, and I will give Gemini, Nano Banana, a photo of myself, and I'll say, look, turn me into Frankenstein's creature there for Halloween, and make it a nice cinematic kind of poster vibe, and
Cool.
pops my image in, pops the prompt in. Oh, I've done this kind of thing on Gemini like countless times. No,
Yep.
Sorry, computer says no. And I said, well, why not? I said, against my policies and guidelines. And it linked to the policies and guidelines. And I had a look, and there was one in there about violence and gore. So I thought, well, maybe it tried to do something too gory. So I said, I'll just test it. And I gave it my image, and I said, generate an image of me having a nice cup of tea in a cozy cafe.
Yeah.
No, sorry, can't do it. I thought, this is weird. So then I gave it my image, and I did something I know that I've done several times in Nano Banana in Gemini, and I said, what would I look like without my mustache? Nope, sorry, can't do it. So I don't know what's going on. My immediate thought.
Did you fill out like the GDPR forms and then have them signed in triplicate and sent off to the European Commission, and then also submit your business plan to the local LDA and all the other things that have to be done in the EU to generate an image using AI?
I wonder if it's possible that that's what it is, because my first thought was that maybe in the kind of Sora 2, the fact that caused such a stir in terms of deepfakes, that maybe Google kind of went, you know what, maybe we don't want to be on the wrong side of this deepfake thing. But I checked on Reddit, and someone told me, no, I can still do it. So it doesn't seem to be a universal thing. Now, it could just be that their servers are under strain today, because Gemini has acted weird for me before when it's been under strain, but I haven't seen any sign of it being under strain apart from that. So I don't know.
I did see a video this week, just about an hour ago, in fact, from Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astrophysicist from the US. And he was there, and he's like, in spite of all of the rockets that we've launched into space, in spite of all the satellite imagery and the weather satellites and so on, I still can't help thinking that the Earth is flat. And then he pulled the camera, his phone away, and he said, those weren't my words. That was a deep fake and whatever. And he was raising awareness about it. So
Right.
this is a solved problem. We know the solution, Frank.
What's the solution?
It's from Sam Altman. It's the world orb thing. It comes along, it's a roundy thing, and it scans your eyeball to verify that you're actually human. God help the people that have glass eyeballs. I don't know what they're supposed to do. But for the rest of us, it'll just scan your eyeball and verify that you're human. And you'll have a little green tick on the top corner. And if we don't do this, Frank, we're going to end up in a 2047 Blade Runner type situation where we don't know who's real and who isn't. So
I know.
I've signed up for one. I'm still waiting for it to arrive. Again, I'm blaming the EU.
Well, you might be right. I think I read that it absolutely does not conform to EU regulations, that scanning orby thing. But because I was talking about this in, I think I've told you about the Rise community that I'm in before, and I was chatting with some people in there, and somebody about the Gemini not deepfaking me anymore, and they. A buddy of mine asked about Sora, and And that something he said made me go away and do a bit of research. And I found this article from Reality Defender. And now this is the scary bit, right? This is the Halloween story. So
Yeah.
Reality Defender, what they do is they have software that is really, really good at detecting AI fakes. So they're the people we talked, I think it was just in last week's show, maybe I was saying that, this software exists that could be implemented in platforms to tell people what the percentage likelihood is that something is AI. Well, Reality, one of those pieces of software. Well, they did a test. They took some footage of really well-known CEOs and they created real-time AI fakes of them via, Zoom type software. So they're basically puppeteering an AI deepfake. By puppeteering the AI deepfake, they could then create a cameo on Sora, because Sora didn't know it was looking at a screen, a bit like Neil deGrasse Tyson. It was looking at an AI fake, and they got around all the safeguards in Sora. So now they could create Sora deepfakes of these public figures.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of the Wild West out there in terms of
Yep, it is. Yep, fun times. Also, in Wild West, Neo. So for people who aren't aware, so Neo are this cool company, right? They do make cool tech. So they make a humanoid robot, comes in 3 different colors, a bit like humans, and you can have it in your home, and it's there to, and it's there, and it's there. It's supposed to be your like home assistant, right? So it's supposed to load the dishwasher, it can cook, it can fold your clothes, make you a cup of tea, all that sort of stuff. Went on sale this week for 20 grand or 500 quid a month, to huge fanfare. Then the New York Times dug into it a little bit more and they found a problem. Do you know what the problem was?
What was it?
It wasn't autonomous. It was teleoperated. Now, if this doesn't frighten you, Frank, I don't know what does. It actually even frightens me.
Who is teleoperating this Neo exactly?
I don't know, some probably, spotty 17-year-old college grad who doesn't even clean his own room. Paid $10 a month to clean your room. But the scary thing is, right, that what they said was that it was mostly autonomous. So, it would do things around the house and it would do that autonomously. But if ever it came to a task that it couldn't do, then it would switch to this sort of remote, what do they call it, teleoperated mode. Which means you could have, and there was no way of really knowing when it was in autonomous mode and when it was in teleoperated mode. Which means
that's really
yeah. So you could be, walking around in your birthday suit after coming out of the shower, and it could be there folding your clothes for you, and suddenly you could have the spotty 17-year-old in California controlling your robot because it doesn't know how to fold your towel properly. I mean, even me who tries to push the boat. Do you know what the funny thing is, right? When I read about this first, the idea of, in innovation circles, they say when you're developing a product, it's totally fine to go with the mechanical Turk. It's kind of a thing. This is the very definition of a mechanical Turk. It is more mechanically turkey than anything else I've ever heard.
I mean, this kind of thing scares me. This is another good scary Halloween story, actually, because who is this company? Like they've appeared out of nowhere, and if it was, say, Google, then at least I would be like, well, Google is a mature company. They have, they're very aware of data privacy, and whereas I would not want a robot in my house that could be controlled by somebody in a call center somewhere from a company that I have no confidence in. If you got trick-or-treaters calling.
My Alexa's haunted, clearly.
But yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't trust a startup with that kind of access to my house.
And I mean, did you see actually during the week that there was a heist in the Louvre in France where they stole some crown jewels? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, a teleoperated, and you get, again, some spotty 17-year-old kid just going around your house. Oh, nice Rolex you got there. And out they go to the front door, leave it at the front door, and somebody comes along and picks it up.
Absolutely. And sorry, even if you take the the criminal aspect out of it, what happens in the case of breakages? What happens if the robot accidentally plows through a dresser of your finest china? Not that I have a dresser of finest china, but if I did, and the robot plowed through it, who's responsible there?
Mirrors, Frank. Mirrors, by the way. I saw videos of this very robot can't deal with mirrors. So there was videos of it running through a room, and there was a mirror on the other side. It just crashes straight into the mirror because it looks like the room continues.
No.
Yeah. See, the world is a complicated place. Now, I will say that Jimmy Apples, who works at OpenAI, came up with what I think is genuinely a good idea and a brilliant idea, even though he was joking. So, have you played Fortnite?
Yes. Yeah. I do.
You like Fortnite. So what he says is you should get 100 of these. You should drop them into a forest, leave random weapons around, and then you should be able to teleoperate your own robot. And then you can go around and you try and kill other people, which sounds like great crack. I actually think that might make money.
That is brilliant. I did see that. Did you see the extreme warnings that you cannot get your Neo wet? So the CEO of the company, he was joking, and he said something like, if it gets wet, it detects it automatically, and it immediately goes to Amazon and orders an inflatable swimming pool and several huge bags of rice. But so in the Fortnite scenario, I would head straight for a super soaker.
It does seem like in a home environment, things are going to get wet. You're going to pick up a glass of water, it's going to fall. It seems like a fairly fundamental limitation that you can absolutely under no circumstances get this wet.
If it can't do the washing up,
yeah,
which actually which to be honest, I believe it can't anyway. I did see somewhere as well. There was a statistic in one article that I read that said that it wasn't very good at doing any chores, and they said it took 2 minutes to fold a shirt, and I was like, oh, is that bad?
Is that a take? The folder shirts? Oh, fantastic. Well, look, I got a lot riding on this technology, as you might know. I've got a fairly large wager out there with a friend of mine, and I had sent this to him in the hope that that was it, game over, I've won. But unfortunately, I think that I'm still a bit away from pay up due to the fact that it's teleoperated. But fingers crossed.
Yeah, I guess it seems like we'll see. We'll see if anyone buys one, what the reports are in the real world. But it feels a bit like a startup trying to just steal a first mover advantage before they're ever ready for market, really.
Yeah, well, look, it's going to happen sooner or later. On to OpenAI hour. So OpenAI had a big week this week, as they have every week. It would seem. But Sam Altman had what appears to be a fairly consequential Ask Me Anything session on Vimeo. I don't even know if it was on YouTube. He had it during the week.
On Vimeo, really?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, who knew it even still existed? And so he had it on Vimeo, and he was announcing the restructure, and then had some fairly important contractual details. And I know you love a good contract. Fairly important contractual details relating to their relationship with Microsoft.
Yes.
What do you think of that?
It's all, as you say, OpenAI have been really good lately at really dominating the whole conversation, I feel like. And this is all really important stuff, but I was bored silly by most of it. But it is interesting. They now have these two arms. They finally restructured. It's been on the cards for a long time. I was kind of surprised. I thought there'd be a lot more kind of like noise in the run up to it, but it was like suddenly it was just here. They'd done it. So now they have their nonprofit arm, and they have, what's it called again? A public benefit corporation, I think it's called.
Yep.
Which that I did find interesting, I guess, because a public benefit corporation is not solely guided by increasing the share price for shareholders. They are also bound to a particular mission. And in this case, it's the mission that OpenAI have always allegedly had, which is to make AGI for the benefit of all humanity, or something similar to that, except the Chinese, probably.
except for the Chinese. Tell me this, right? Because it has that structure, but in the same breath, I don't know if in that interview, but certainly in the media coverage around it, they had said that it was quite likely that they would become public or they would file for an IPO, possibly as soon as the second half of 2026. Do we all get shares in this public? If it's there to benefit all of humanity, I'd like my bit now, please. Thank you. I've got a big mortgage to pay. I've got 6 kids to feed. Let's be having some of that benefit right now.
I suspect the benefit we get is the free version of ChatGPT. I think that's what they've been implying lately, because they've really been hammering home the amount of free users that they have. And I think that's what they're doing. I think they're pushing their free users as the benefit to humanity and as a good thing, as opposed to we haven't managed to convert very many people to paid.
Now there was a couple of details in there. I know you were sort of your eyes glazed over with the contractual stuff and that, but there were some tidbits that were quite interesting, I thought, within the presentation. So what they talked about was this idea of, they talked about AGI, and they talked about the path to AGI, and they talked about an intern level researcher, AI researcher, and they thought that they would be able to achieve that by September this time next year, a little bit earlier than this time next year, so that they will be able to hand off. And I know I've been listening to him or watching some comments by Andrei Karpathy, and he does lots of these learning sessions on the internet. And in one of them, somebody asked him, like, do you not use Codex now to write your homebrew large language models? And he was saying they're actually pretty crap at writing code for large language, to generate a large language model, which was interesting.
Right.
Anyway, OpenAI said that they will have an intern level agent for creating AI in 2026, and a PhD level or a full researcher by 2028. Now, and this was all wrapped into the conversation to do with AGI, because that's in many ways sort of caught up with this ASI, or self-improving artificial intelligence. The moment that it can research as well as or better than a human and create the next version of it. Also, I think you'll find, what was that scary movie that we talked about the other week? The one about the fantasy story we talked about it last week. The guys, it was, they wrote I could go back and.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. The AI 2027 or.
Yeah, that was what. Yeah. It's one of the key points of AI. Yeah. So that's one of the key things that it's not going to happen. AI 2027. Well, OpenAI aren't going to happen till 2028. So you could rest easy for another 12 months. The Microsoft part of the deal was very interesting. Did you dig into that at all, or I found that part fascinating?
The bit that stuck out to me about it was that they are no longer prohibited from using OpenAI's models once AGI is achieved. They now it'll be that they can still use them, but just with additional safeguards. So, all along the way, we just see, any kind of like safety or any concerns about like AGI might not be a good thing, or they're all just going out the window, slowly but surely. They're all going out the window, and it's like, yeah, we're just rushing to AGI. And yeah, look, I know we said originally it's probably too dangerous to let people just use, but actually we'll let them use it. We'll just put a few extra safeguards on.
Always looking on the dead side. What I thought was interesting was that Microsoft still get access to all of OpenAI's research until AGI. So they can look at all the models, how they make their models. They can look at the internal models. They get to keep those rights up until, there's 2 dates, 2030 and 2032. I'm not clear on which one it is. On the other side, however, Microsoft are able to forge their own path towards their own AGI model. Now, that was a really interesting dichotomy for me. So at the one hand, they've got access to all the latest tech, and on the other hand, they have all rights to develop their own tech. You would assume potentially using a lot of the OpenAI tech to help them. There was nothing there to stop them. I thought that was quite interesting.
It is. And sorry, go ahead.
And then just the last thing with it was just this date, 2030 and 2032, right? And the question in my mind was that they were like, we have rights to this technology up until at least 2030, unless AGI is delivered. And I was thinking, what does that mean? Like, what insight does that give us into the thinking of the leadership in Microsoft? And I think it means that they don't think AGI is going to happen before 2030. Because if they did, then there'd be no need for the AGI or 20. I think it means that they think it's going to take longer than Sam Altman thinks to declare AGI.
It was also interesting in terms of what you were saying about they have access to all the research and everything. There's one exception, and that is the hardware project with Johnny Ive. That is kind of interesting in itself, that like you would give someone access to everything, but not that project.
And obviously, again, what does that tell you? Oh, there you go. My thing is haunted. It is Halloween after all. But that tells you that the value that OpenAI and Sam Altman place on that partnership, and how much revenue they think it's going to generate. I think just intuitively it makes a lot of sense. They're very different. Microsoft isn't really a hardware company. They tried it and they failed. So, do
you know when my eyes lit up though? Do you know what? I was watching the Ask Me Anything, and there was one moment that I was like, yes, excellent news. This is fantastic. Sam Altman said they have no plans to sunset 4.0, my good old buddy 4.0 that I still go to constantly for my work.
Yeah. Isn't that it? Do you not find this whole thing? Because there's a big movement for 4.0. And do you know what? Maybe this will solve a problem that I think is going to come down the line, right? So, I have this sort of moral dilemma that let's not even get into the consciousness thing, but, maybe they're conscious, maybe they're not. Who knows, right? And my whole thing was, well, if you even think that they're conscious, would you not have like, a farm in the hills that these models can go to when you retire them, just so we can go and play with them and whatever. But this old furore over 4.0 makes me think that this is a problem that will solve itself, because as the models become more capable, I can imagine that people will become more and more attached to them. And, people don't, GPT-5 appears to be slightly too autistic for people to become that attached to it when GPT-6 comes along. But there will be models that people will go, I love that model. Like, I don't love it in the way that I love my car. I mean, I love the model. I want to keep the model.
Yeah. And they mentioned GPT-6 as well. Did you see that? Somebody asked the question. The question was, when GPT-6?
Yeah,
and but Sam Altman he fudged it a little bit, because he didn't say GPT-6 will be in whenever. What he said was something like, I expect it to be about 6 months before we see. Before we release another big kind of step forward in capabilities. I think it was some language, something like that, which kind of said to me, that doesn't necessarily mean we won't see GPT-6 before then, but that it just might not be the big jump that people are hoping for.
Oh, interesting that was your take. My take was that it will be about 6 months. It will be a big jump, but it will be about 6 months away. We'll find out.
It was just his language. He kind of fudged the language. Like, he didn't say GPT-6. Anyway.
So unlike him to say something unclear. He did, and I have to say this for all of our younger viewers out there. He did release a tweet the following day to say that he's going to rename GPT-6 to be GPT-67, and apparently that gets titters from the younger folk. I have no idea, Frank.
That was the sound of it going over my head.
My kids die a little bit inside every time I say 6-7, so who knows?
Okay. Right. Well, that's something for me probably not to Google after this show, just in case.
I don't think it's rude or anything. It's a meme of some description that the young folk find entertaining. Who knows? There was another number. It wasn't in that particular thing, but it is related to OpenAI that came out. It was stunning. So OpenAI released a paper basically lobbying the American government to help them build power stations in the US, right? Which is fine. It's quite obviously a lobbying paper, right? But one of the things that was most... Sorry? Quite obviously.
Very obviously, yeah. So obviously, it was almost embarrassing. I mean, not just lobbying, but like ass kissing. Let's just call it what it is.
Some people call it lobbying, potato. But the most incredible thing on it was when they were talking about this build out of power stations and data centers and stuff, they said that they estimated by their own analysis that the requirement was so huge that they were going to take 20% of the entire skilled electrician and building workforce of the US just to do the build out. 20%, a fifth. That is phenomenal.
I saw that. I couldn't. I'm just being really pedantic here now. This is the same as me wondering about Sam Altman's fudging the language, but
Yeah.
I read it about 4 times, and I never quite figured out if they were saying that they would need 20% of the existing workforce, or whether they would need the equivalent of 20% of the existing workforce added to the workforce.
You think about things way too much. Take the workforce of people that make buildings, take 20% of it. That's how many people they'll need. If it's the same 20%, or if you don't hire a single person of the existing workforce and put 20% on top of it, it's still 20%.
It's
It
still a
doesn't
huge
make-
number.
It's still a big number. It doesn't make any difference. It's a lot of people. We're going to need a lot of people. It's a great time to be an electrician.
Yes. What was I going to say there? I was going to say something else about that blog post. No, it's gone from my head. There was of course several things in that post that I found a little bit concerning. But they're gone out of my head. So you know what? Let's just let them go, and let's not go into the scary details of that post.
It's Halloween. Let's not scare ourselves overly on it.
Exactly.
Big news for Udio this week. And you're a bit of a musician yourself, Frank. You like to compose the odd tune.
So last bank holiday, I had a lot of fun with Suno. So I was interested that Udio popped up in the headlines, because to me, like, Suno and Udio were the two big players in the AI music generation space. But Udio had kind of, like, Suno kind of eclipsed them and became the go-to, and Udio kind of went very quiet. And now, so now they're making headlines. But yeah, sorry, at the bank holiday, I was using Suno because I'd say about several decades ago, Justin, I fancied myself as a singer-songwriter. And I had been meaning to play with it for ages, because I have these really old recordings that I just recorded on my phone or something of me badly playing guitar with these songs I wrote. Terrible quality. I was never very good at the guitar. Rhythms all over the place. Like, there's just so much wrong with them. Now I can pop them into Suno, and I can do cover versions of them. And I can add a string section, and I can decide they're electronic. Or I can say, you know what? I want to hear a country version of this. And it's my lyrics, it's my melody, like, it's my thing. But I can now imagine it as, I can now hear what it would have been like if I had ever followed that path.
That's so cool. So you can take your own music, right, that you've made yourself, and you can upload it to create it, basically professionalize it, but by making a copy or a cover of your own song, and then turn it into any style you want.
Yeah, it is quite incredible. It really is amazing.
Fantastic.
And the one
really
thing
cool.
I didn't do, I didn't go as far as trying to clone my voice, although I have some YouTube tutorials saved somewhere that apparently you can do that too. But in terms of Udio were in the headlines for a different reason.
Two reasons, right? I know the one that you're referring to, right, which was they signed a deal with, was it Universal Records? So you might even get that. So that Universal Records were going to sue them because they were plagiarizing their music, and they signed a deal, and they can license it and stuff like that. I think in related news, downloads of generated music shortly afterwards got disabled from Udio. And there was, the public were up in arms, or Udio users were up in arms because,
of course,
they wanted to download their music.
Well, I'm glad I've downloaded my album from Suno already, because they'll probably fall. They may fall foul of the same thing, because I think they're also in the midst of being sued. It's just that their case hasn't been settled. What's interesting about the Udio thing is, right? They've disabled downloads, but their plan now is to develop a completely new platform with Universal Music Group, and it'll be a bit like Suno, except that you probably won't be able to download what you create. So it'll be like a walled garden, but artists will be able to opt in. It'll all be licensed music, and you will be a little bit like cameos in Suno. Or sorry, I keep calling it the wrong thing. What's the Sora? I keep confusing Sora and Sora. So in a bit like cameos in Sora, you would be able to pick a musician that you like and generate a song in their style, but it would not be able to leave the platform, and the artist would be compensated from your subscription fee or whatever. All sounds fascinating. All sounds brilliant for the artists. I think it is, only fair that artists are compensated and everything. I'm not sure you can walk back from where we are now and interest people in a walled garden like that when they've been used to being able to generate whatever they want and download it and use it however they want. I just wonder, will they be able to muster the enthusiasm for a platform like that?
Interesting point, right? And I agree with you. I will give you one historical precedence, though, that maybe says they can. So if you remember back at the start of the 90s, you and me and everybody else loved getting our music using Napster. And the music companies very successfully shut that down and, you know, moved everything over to Apple Music and so on, which is a walled garden, essentially. So maybe, who knows, right? But it may be or maybe not. It remains to be seen.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Exciting news from Albania.
Yes. There's it's not often you get to say that, is it?
That's sentences I didn't expect to say at Halloween. Exciting news from Albania. So Albania is leading the charge with AI regulation, I would say, except that it's AI making the regulation as opposed to AI being regulated. They have an AI minister, and the exciting news this week is that the AI minister is meant to have 83 children. Did you read about this?
I did. This is the bizarrest thing I've ever come across, and there's so many layers to this, and it's so fascinating. What fascinates me most is that I don't know. I don't know. Is he the president of Albania? I'm not sure, but the figurehead who has been talking about this,
Yes.
who put this in place, and who's kind of spearheading this AI government, whatever you want to call it. His way of talking is so interesting, and the fact that he has positioned this as the AI minister having 83 babies. I mean, what weird language, what weird framing. And they've even created an avatar of this AI that talks about having these babies.
It's bizarre. I think it's pretty. They're anthropomorphizing basically what is just an AI agent, right? And all these other 83 are just chatbots. They're just going to listen to the conversations, right? If you aren't at a parliamentary meeting, it'll be able to tell you what happened, right? So that's a pretty standard use case. The use case that I love, right? They're pushing boundaries, and I think that's great. The use case that I love, and I think this is brilliant, is 100% of procurement decisions in Albania are made using the AI. What's it called? Dahlia. And it's used, so the decisions are made to prevent corruption. Isn't that fantastic?
So this president, or I really should have checked. I really should have checked his name before coming on. But anyway, this guy, he was saying like, well, look, AI doesn't have cousins, and cousins are one of the biggest problems in Albania when it comes to corruption. I mean, these are the kinds of things he says. He also said in relation to what you said there about, you know, the chatbot being able to catch you up on what happened or something. I saw him talking about it, and he said, you know, if you're there and you go for coffee, and look, we have the best coffee. We have much better coffee than Germany, and our coffee is so good that the problem is you might not want to come back to work. And if that happens, when you come back, you'll now be able to get it caught up by your AI companion. He just has the most bizarre way of putting these things. But so I'm fascinated by the anti-corruption thing. I think that's really interesting. The procurement thing, it makes a lot of sense, because it's basically what it's doing is it's going through contracts, which is seems to me like a very, very good use of AI. The chatbot, the children, the 83 children, the way that it's being presented, and the fact that the initiative is largely to tackle corruption, gives it a little bit of a spyware feel that makes me slightly uncomfortable. That, you know, if he hadn't brought up that this was to tackle corruption, etc., I might just be like, oh yeah, a helpful assistant. But now giving every minister their own AI, their own baby of Dahlia, when you look at it through the lens of, oh, this is this was originally set up to tackle corruption, you're kind of like, wait, are these just AI spies? Like, what's going on here?
I don't know. Well, look, I'm all for it, as you know. So I think it's great. Well done, Albania. I hope it spreads through the rest of the European Union soon. I'm actually amazed that they got permission from the European Commission to do it, but there you go.
But they're not in Europe. This is one of the things. They're
Europe yet.
No, they're still on the list, and they're tackling corruption really specifically to try to make sure that they have a smooth transition into the EU. So
Stuff.
yeah, but here's a question for you, right? Would you accept the equivalent of a Dahlia baby from your boss?
Oh, sorry. Would I? Okay, so you're right. The framing is important.
Yeah.
Right. So, would I like to have a Dahlia sit in at every meeting that I was with and record every single thing that I said? I mean, these meetings, no, obviously, because it's the end of the week. We're having a bit of crack. But during the week, right, when I'm actually at work, yeah, actually, I think that would be really useful. Like really useful.
You know, that's true. I actually forgot that one of the very first episodes of the AI argument, you said that this would actually be the perfect use for AI was to record absolutely everything in a company and then have a knowledge base based on everything that was ever said in the company. So of course you'd accept one.
And OpenAI, I didn't even put it on the list. OpenAI released said product this week.
What did they release? I missed a release. What did they release?
They very quietly, they released, I don't know what they call it, but it's basically for corporates. It's for company knowledges, and it will connect to your Slack channel, to your SharePoint, to your GitHub profile, to your, right? So and I think to Microsoft Teams. So it's connecting all the things that I would have said you needed to connect to beforehand.
Right.
And then you can talk to it. And so, you know, it's like, why the hell did we develop feature 1, 2, 3? I was like, well, Justin, because you said about 6 months ago we should develop feature 1, 2, 3. He's like, oh, bollocks. Okay, well, let's say nothing less about that, and so on. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, this has been a pleasure.
Would you not have a Dahlia with you to record every waking moment and thought?
God, no. Not a hope. No, you're not. I'm not getting a humane pin. I'm not getting an AI friend. I'm not getting whatever one of the other multitude of them are out there. No. I'm still clutching to the remnants of privacy that I remember.
Back up the truck one moment, right?
Yeah.
Every Thursday we meet for half an hour to have a quick chat about what we're going to discuss on a Friday evening, right? And every time I join that Zoom call, I have to wait for a second or two because I have to click OK to allow my AI transcription and recording of the whole thing. So you already do have your digital Dahlia and you have it turned on.
Oh, yeah. For very specific moments that I think that a recording is necessary and with full transparency that you have to click OK to it. But like something that is just constantly gathering data with not necessarily with buy-in from those around me, absolutely not.
Okay, yeah, I get you. And there's a lot, by the way, I saw on Twitter, there was a lot of pushback this week about these things, you know, the AI assistants that sit in your calls. I do think there's going to be a sizable portion of people that say, I'm not in for that, and they're not going to do it. So,
yeah.
All right, Frank, as always, tremendous crack and a pleasure. And
happy Halloween, and I'll chat to you next week.
Everybody gets diabetes later on.
Good luck.
Take it easy.